Hello everyone. In this video today we will be looking at the next iteration of the shopping list application. Probably the most noticeable difference is the way that it looks. Blue rather than grey, new. The buttons have changed their appearance, and also now we have an option here to sort the items. So the three things which we will be looking at today are styling or style books, saving, and that's loading of information, and also sorting, all begin with the letter S. So to show you, just to quickly go through the program again today. What we can do, we can add in something that we need to buy. We want to add to our shopping list. So let's go mattress maybe, and we can add that to the bottom, or that goes to add to the end of the list. If we want to now, we can also choose to sort them, in which case they will appear in alphabetical order. And if we want to turn the sorting off, then they go back into the order they were previously. For all intensive purposes, nothing overly magical there. Also, I guess the other something else that we've done here is to, let's go to here, let's say kitchen paper. We'll just say paper here, is that I can use the enter key to now add the item to the list. It gets a bit painful and frustrating to have to hit the plus sign. I've added hints you can see here as well. And that is about it as far as the, what has changed between last time and now. So let's have a look now at the code that is behind the form, and to see how all of this is achieved. So here we are with the shopping list application in the Delphi IDE, and just before we will start looking at the code, I just want to do some administration items. First of all, thank you to everyone who has joined this channel. It would be nothing without you being present and liking my content. Indeed, if you do like my content and what we're doing here, please like, please subscribe, and you can also hit the notification buttons, somewhere down there, so that you can be notified when there are new videos. It just helps this channel grow, and hopefully we can show the world how good Object Pascal, Delphi, Free Pascal, how good this language is, and shine a spotlight on a hidden gem, shall we say. I think that just about covers the admin side of things. Actually, no, I lie. If you do have any feedback about the videos, what you would like me to cover, or whether you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, I would love to hear from you, because again, without you, this channel wouldn't be much at all. So let's dig into the code now. So here is the here is the window that you can see. You can also see from a design perspective, the main difference is the inclusion of the style book. Probably this might be the best thing to look at first, since we're there, and talk about style books. So essentially what a style book does, it allows you to, as a name implies, to style the application. Once you added a style book into the application, you can then double click on it, and it brings up something you should see this sort of window here. And I have already said, selected a style book for it that we can use. And we will now, if we wanted to change that, basically you need to, the default location is in the public users documents. Go down into Embocado styles 22 and then the styles and choose one that you might like to use. I'm not going to hit the OK button, but you'll then be asked, if you do want to close this window, then you'll be asked about whether you want to save it. And then the other part to note would be the whether or not you are going to use the style manager down here. Turn that on, and once that's enabled on the form itself, then associate the style book with the main form, and the whole look or the appearance of the form should then change to what we're seeing here. I did have to change in here, or on the buttons, I did have to change the style lookup buttons to be to what you see them to be here. Otherwise they were looking a little bit drab. So you will note here that the options here now are different to what was shown last week, and you can choose what button, choose the appropriate image to show. Code wise, there are some things which have changed, like this part here has been added. This is used in the loading and the saving, but we'll come to that a bit later. Down lower here, this is pretty much the code that would have existed last week. There is a small difference in that I did actually add in a list of items. These are in order as entered by the user, and the sorting, any sorting is done within the list box itself. May or may not be the smartest thing to do in a real world development, but in this instance here is good for the occasion, shall we say. When we want to add an item into the list, then what we see here is if an add to list setting is turned on, then it'll be added into our internal list, and if that, and regardless, an item will be added to the list box. Perhaps the main thing to note here would be is the setting of the items parent to be the shopping list, other than obviously setting the text, because that's what makes it visible. Now we get into the nitty-gritty of the changes that were made, and this is in relation to the sorting, and followed by we added in some code for the form create when the form gets destroyed, and next is the loading and the saving of items. So let us start here with the sorting function. Perhaps because I'm using the internal sorting function or feature of a list box, by just setting the sorted property of to match that of the checkbox, the items that are within the list box need to be list box items. And if you look here, and if you want to go see why that is the case, you could always go and look in the code of Delphi to see why that is the case. If the items are not sorted, then well, basically we're talking about going from a sorted to an unsorted state. Then we want to clear the shopping list and then add each item from the existing list back into the list view. And here you can see the need for, or why I've added that second parameter in, for whether or not we need to re-add them into the internal list or not. So, and all this code exists in the on change state of the checkbox. You wouldn't use the on click event because that would capture the value of the checkbox before it changes. And here, this is so the on change occurs after the check mark has been added to the after it's been added to the checkbox. And this is all that we needed to do to add a saving function into the program. The next thing also you will probably note is the for loop to add the items to the list looks a bit different to what you might expect, like for I equals 1 to count -1 or 0 to count -1, add f list I. So here what we're looking at, for each item in f list we want to add that item, or do something with that particular item here. I think this code, or this way of doing things, is a little bit nicer to look at, shall we say. In order then for us to be able to manage, let's say, both a sorted and an unsorted list, is to have a string list. And to have a string list, we need to create that string list, otherwise we might get an error from that. And in that regard here, what I'm doing is also then creating my string list. To maybe go off on a slight tangent, one could argue that we could have created a new component derived maybe from a list box, which can contain the logic you can see above the program, to have both an internal list and the assorted and unsorted view. Again, what we're looking at here is to show you what's wherever the code lives is, for this demonstration, is neither here nor there. In the real world, what would I do? It depends on the nature of the application, I would say. It probably would be smarter though to create some sort of new component if I wasn't going to write my own sorting functionality otherwise. Now the next part here is that this program here uses an ini file to store all of its settings, and I am using the documents path for the to store, let's say, the settings. If you were to run this program, if you were to run a program, say on Windows, or if it was installed somewhere on Linux or whatever, normally the folder in which the program, the executable, is located would be under strict control, read-only permission. So you want to store it in a location where you would have read-write properties, and you won't bear the the anger of your sysadmin. So you'll also note here that I'm using, you might be wondering what app folder is here. So we can go up to here, and you can see that I've added a few constant definitions inside the class here. These could be above the class itself. This way it's probably a little bit more, easier, shall we say, maintenance wise. the other benefit here is that if I do want to change any one of these settings, then wherever they would be used, then the change is made, the change is picked up throughout. So you'll see this bit further down also. So let's go back to where we came from. So here what we're going to do is to use the back feature, which is on the toolbar, and we go back to here. So basically our app folder, which is shopping list, under the users documents folder, and we will then create that directory before we then load the settings. The opposite function, or the other function associated with the form create, is a form destroy. So here we just want to do whatever was in the form create, but we will do it in the reverse order. So here you can see that we actually save our settings, and since flist was created up here, then we should free it down here. So the next function about loading and saving here is, like I said, we're using an ini file here, and I'm going to work out what the name is from the calling another function, and you'll see that both the loading and the saving, these two lines are exactly the same here. Just to make sure again that should there be any confusion with any values being hard-coded, we're all pointing at the exact same thing. Before we get into the loading and the saving, the last bit of code here that's worth looking at is the key up, which basically this is a little bit of code that allows us to handle the return key in the item edit field to basically implement an add type code, bit of function execute an add event handler when the user presses the enter key to put it into the shopping list. To do this also, we did have to set the return key action on the edit control, and while I haven't tested it on Android yet, that is needed in order for code like this to run. However, this is something that we can look at in a future version. So now we are wanting to do the loading and the saving. Perhaps to make the loading more obvious what's happening, we need to look at what is being saved here. So what we will do here is we will write out whether or not the user has the items sorted or not. The next bit of code here will then write out the number of items in the list. You will see here that I'm using a data. I'm not using anything hard-coded down here. The only place you'll see them, let's say, hard-coded is in the constant declarations within the class. And then here you will see that the shopping list section is being used again here, and it will also be used in the save loading code above it. And the next item here is that each item is then saved into the file. So with the item saved, when we run it the next time round, essentially what will happen is we read or determine whether or not the items are to be sorted or not. We read the count again for each item. We will then read that item from the file, and providing we don't have an empty string, it's just a sanity check, then we can add the item to the list before we then free the configuration file. And lastly, we will make sure that if the list box is checked or not gets set from the sort items, which was just read from the ini file above it. And this means that we only would have to load the items once in an unsorted manner, and then we'll sort them at the end. if the user does want to then put a new item in, into the edit field, then the addition will then result in the list being resorted. But here, this is probably the easiest, cheapest, dirtiest way of doing that. So this is the program so far in a nutshell. Down the bottom here, I am providing you with an update of each of the changes to each version, so you can see what's changed. As before, the code will get uploaded to GitHub for you to peruse, look at, download, do what you want with. And like I said, in the upcoming version, we'll start looking at other changes, like whether or not we want to use a database versus an ini file, or we could just even talk about that. We could look at splitting it up into using something like an Amazon storage, or how we might want to share the data. But for this particular edition, pretty much done, I think. So for this program, I hope you've gotten something out of this, and please let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see, what you would do differently maybe here. What did you like, what didn't you like? I look forward to hearing from you all, and like I said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you next time in the next video. Till then.